In 2024, Amazon and Bethesda came together to put out a post-nuclear TV show, Fallout. At the time, it was met with praise about how it feels like Fallout. While I did not watch it at the time, having been put off by the trailer, with ever-increasing imminence of the release of Season 2, I figured I should watch it and put my own thoughts out there. My plan for this is to break it up into a per-episode format and try to keep as much Fallout game-related bias out of it as I can, as it's quite probable that the target audience for the show was people who do not already play the games. However, once I've gone through with every episode, at the end I'll present how I would have written the show, and that will take into account as much lore as I can get away with. So, without further ado, on to episode 1. We open at the end, which is also conveniently the beginning, to one Cooper Howard doing rope tricks at a birthday party, and his daughter, who I shall call Little Howard. News is reporting that there is an ongoing war, but people are trying to ignore it and get on with their lives. Two fellows imply that Mr. Howard has fallen from stardom and is struggling for cash due to needing to pay alimony. They also imply he is famous for giving a thumbs up and that he's a communist. Little Howard asks about the thumbs up pose, which Mr. Howard passes off as an old military indicator of if you were too close to a nuclear detonation or not, by stating that if the cloud was smaller than your thumb, then you run, with the implication of if it was bigger, then there's little point. Which proves rather prophetic, as she is the only one to notice the flash of an atomic detonation, everyone else seemingly mistaking it for a camera flash bulb, despite being shown the vast difference in brightness. There is also no sound of missiles streaking through the air prior to the detonation, suggesting that the missiles were either invisible and silent, or that nuclear bombs have been smuggled in and detonated at ground level. And props to the actress, she just genuinely looks scared in this scene. Everyone else only notices when the shockwave hits, because nobody, even those not facing completely away from the window, saw the mushroom cloud, and panic ensues. The two fellows have an amicable discussion about Fallout shelter space, and everyone else flees as 3 more detonations go off, also without any kind of sky trail or sound of missile engines, although the sound thing is probably more stylistic at this point. Curiously, Mr. Howard and Little Howard ride down the one road away from the party, which leads towards the detonations. Was there a sheer cliff on all the other 3 sides? We will never know. Jumping forward, we are introduced to Lucy McLean going through an interview process for a bridal application. She mentions that she knows general maintenance, is a teacher, gymnast, fencer, martial artist, accurate with firearms, and spends her free time with her dad. A real go-getter, if you will. And to be fair, there is probably not a lot to occupy the mind in a vault. We also briefly meet Norman, who likes computer games, and Hank, their dad, as well as the council, whose names are not yet revealed, and therefore I shall call Beardy Guy, Old Lady, and Other Guy. Lucy mentions about not being able to find a partner she is not related to. This is a joke. Please laugh. There is also mention of a triannual trade with Vault 32. Triannual meaning 3 times a year. What these trades are, we do not know. Just that this one involves an arranged marriage for genetic diversity reasons. We then spend the next few scenes with preparations for the wedding, including showing a wedding dress that has had previously been used by several people, the last one being Stephanie Harper, who is the pregnant lady, on March 17th, 2294. As this show takes place in 2296, we have yet to see any 2-year-old children, it suggests that it has taken a very long time for her to get pregnant, despite stating that they got down to business right away. Also, reference. Lucy also happens to mention that she's been having sex for about 10 years and is ready for the real thing. Given her comments previously about not having any suitable unrelated partners, this is a tad concerning. Maybe it's a joke? Who knows? Hank McLean mentions that Lucy looks like her mother and that he came from Vault 31, presumably in another trade of some sort, but not one that is otherwise mentioned. He is also referred to with the title of Overseer, which is a self-explanatory title, an overseer being somebody who oversees. And they move on to meet the Vault 32 party. Norman babbles on the way, showing that he may have a habit of overthinking things. There is a slight delay as the doorkeeper, Chet, tries to stall and profess his love for Lucy, showing that it is these two who are cousins and have been fooling around for the past 10 years. Still, he relents and the Vault 32 party enters. We are introduced to Lee Moldava, overseer of Vault 32. However, nobody from the Vault 33 party is able to recognise anyone from Vault 32, which is somewhat odd given that they trade 3 times every year as previously mentioned, and presumably have done so for the past 219 years. That is, incidentally, 657 trades between the two vaults. There is a mention of the previous overseer passing away, one Jackson, with a wheat famine being blamed. Hank states that they are trading grain machinery as arranged, and we get introduced to Monty, the husband-to-be. The wedding ceremony goes ahead with some odd behaviours from the Vault 32 group, such as eating with knives and taking food from other people, and Lucy demonstrates that she is not exactly great at polite social interactions. During the ceremony, Hank gives a speech and states that the outside world will have tolerable radiation levels within the next generation, and that recolonization will be able to start soon. Lucy and Monty go off to consummate the marriage, with Monty acting a little odd afterwards. Captain Norman, who has let his curiosity get the better of him and has wandered off into Vault 32. Where is doorkeeper Chet? Nobody knows. The place is in obvious disrepair with dead crops, smashed rooms, and we are then presented with a badly decomposed corpse. Now, while decomposition speeds can vary depending upon the environment, this fellow looks to have been gone for a very long time. Certainly longer than about 4 months, which would have been roughly when the last triannual trade between the vaults would have happened. Back to Lucy, and Monty is still acting strange, playing with the taps and drinking out of a pitcher. We get a scream from outside. She straps on a Pip-Boy, and it is revealed that Monty is giving off 8 rads per second. Going by the filming length, this is around about 8 minutes after his arrival. I bring this up because, roughly speaking, 1,000 rads is considered a lethal dose for humans, which tends to result in death within hours. With the amount of rads that he's giving off, this means that everybody would have received a lethal dose, not only the Vault 32 party, but also Vault 33, within 2 minutes, which would generally be considered enough to kill them all by this point. Lucy calls him a raider. Now, how does she know what a raider is when the vaults are sealed from the outside? Who knows? So, fight ensues, and while not physically powerful as Monty, her previously mentioned combat skills are used, and she is able to win the fight, but not without injury. One quick stim later, and she is off to the armory to fight back, finding not only the dead priest from the wedding ceremony, but the armory also had been raided with only a syringe gun left. One big fight scene ensues, with Vault 32 party now acting like raiders, apparently having had leather armour hidden under their jumpsuits, butchering all the Vault 33 residents. Beardy Man seems to be in shock, just standing around in the middle of the fight. Still, he recovers enough to briskly walk away, then prioritises saving the jelly mould being brought in because A, he's an idiot, and B, the two people with the cart are seemingly deaf and did not hear automatic gunfire. While they do not survive, Beardy Man is supremely lucky and escapes into the next room where there is a fight going down, then hides against the wall in said room in plain view of the occupants so as to avoid getting spotted from the corridor because, as previously mentioned, he's an idiot. Back to the party, and Lucy is about to get gunned down by Clownface when the hero of the event, this guy, intervenes. Without Hero Guy, the rest of the TV show would play out very differently indeed. Still, Clownface goes down and somehow manages to shoot the guy in front of him while clearly missing. Maybe the other guy is an idiot too, and he just thought he was being shot. And it was revealed that one of the casualties is Stephanie's husband, Bert. More fighting! Gatekeeper Chet, meanwhile, is back at the gate again. Where did he go? Why is he back now? Nobody knows. But he is also seemingly a bit on the dim side, as he's just standing around in the fight. Still, plot armour and Dunluck protect him, and his attacker accidentally offs himself with a door. Lucy rescues Norman, with quite properly a lethal syringe shot to the eye. Monty shows up again, and Hank rescues Lucy. Cut to the intervault door. Hank and Lucy rush to it, only to find Lee Moldava with some prisoners and a bomb. She drops a cryptic comment about the Vault Dwellers knowing who they really are, and gives Hank an ultimatum. Save the prisoners or save Lucy. He chooses Lucy, is tranquilised. Lee Moldava comments on how Lucy looks like her mother, and arms the bomb while giving the prisoners enough time to run away, which is very generous of her. Boom! Cut to our next main character, Maximus, getting beaten up. Like a bunch of bullies in a schoolyard, they all leave when a teacher shows up. His friend Dane comes running in from off-screen to help him up, before stating that the flesh is weak, but the steel endures. So, I guess we're going with Tech Priest now. A few boot camp type scenes follow, and we have a classroom at sunset, where Maximus proves that he can't tell the difference between a circuit and a rotor. The instructor states that the dead are more useful than idiots, before class is rudely interrupted by the Prydwen airship and 4 vertibirds. Here we see 5 knights, which, given that he didn't know that what circuit was, Maximus manages to identify it as T60. Strangely, it appears that the radio operator on the airship sends images to the radio operator on the ground, despite being able to disembark and hand it over, as they both are in the same location, and there is no indication that the transmission is coming from elsewhere. Cut to probably the next day, as the sun is back up high again, and Maximus is being punished with solo latrine duty for some reason. However, he seems more than willing to stop working when asked, and both he and Dane go off to get a close look at the power armour, which tells us that the base did not have any prior to the arrival of the Prydwen. We get a quick flashback to Maximus as a child, first seeing a suit before Dane gets called away. Cut to evening, and people are playing basket brick, presumably because they have been unable to find a ball in the past 220 years, and we find that Dane has been promoted from aspirant to squire. Why? Who knows? We've not exactly seen them do anything other than hang around Maximus. Cut to night time, and Maximus is still on latrine duty, has gotten pissed off that Dane got promoted ahead of him and decides to break a toilet. to morning, and someone has stuck razor blades in Dane's boot, and like an idiot, they put it on without noticing. Regardless of why it was done, Dane now cannot go off base with the knights, and Maximus is dragged off with a bag on his head. Back to Vault 33, and everybody's trying to patch everything up and return to life as normal. Dead bodies are dumped in the compost room, and a number of survivors are having an assembly. Lucy proposes going to look for the Overseer, but Beardy Guy states that the external door is never opened, which further adds to the question of how Lucy knew what a raider was the night before, as they have had zero contact with the outside. Old Lady, now identified as Betty, goes further and says none of their doors should be opened. I assume at this point she means the connective doors between the three vaults rather than any door at all, as that would make life quite difficult. Norman suggests that it is a power grab by the council, who now get to be in charge that there is no Overseer. Thus a plan is hatched between him, Lucy and Chet to have her leave and look for Hank, which nobody sees or hears the lift doors opening or closing for some reason. Norman is told to hold the elevator, which he fails to do thanks to getting distracted, and Chet wants to go with his sex partner to the surface, but fails to do so thanks to tranquilizers. Thus, Lucy leaves Vault 33 and emerges in the desolate wasteland of the Los Angeles beachfront. Now, curiously, outside we have a mix of bones and calcified bodies, the latter of which are probably intended to evoke Pompeii. Unfortunately, there is a difference in death in the LA area was by several nuclear detonations, and in Pompeii it was by a volcanic pyroclastic flow. Still, moving on, the location of the vault entrance suggests that it may potentially have been under another building at one point, but if so, there is very little rubble to confirm that theory. Back to Maximus again, and he is getting interrogated by an old man, who, as far as I can tell, is never named, but is credited as Elder Cleric Quintus. When asked why he was with the Brotherhood, Maximus says he wants to get revenge and hurt the people who hurt him, but denies hurting Dane or knowing who did. Given the action of the bullies, I would have thought that they would have been prime suspects, but it appears that Maximus is the local whipping boy, and everything has to be his fault. Like the idiot that he is, Maximus says he wanted Dane to get hurt and asks if that is wrong. Quintus tells him that violence against a brother is weakness, and, well, someone should maybe tell the bullies that, I suppose, but oh well. After all this, Maximus is promoted to Squire and takes Dane's place, which tells us that Quintus is quite probably an idiot too. Fast forward to the anointing ceremony, and we are shown that squires get branded by the knight they serve, which is itself quite a dumb practice, because what happens if a knight dies or the squire is reassigned? Do they get the first brand crossed out and branded again? Also, the knights have their initial on their gauntlet in order to do the branding, which means that gauntlets need to get replaced if the armour ever changes hands or something, I suppose. Quintus tells us that their mission comes from the highest clerics in the Commonwealth. Now, I do have to dip a bit into game lore here, as we know of exactly one Commonwealth, and that is, in essence, Massachusetts. Quintus says that they believe a member of the Enclave has escaped, which means that, given their location, someone in the local area found out about Enclave Guy, sent a communication all the way to the other side of the country, where it's picked up. The clerics there decided to load up on knights and vertibirds on their ship, fly their airship all the way from Boston to Los Angeles, and hope they arrive in time so that Enclave Guy does not get to where he is going. Regardless of that, Maximus is given 2 handouts showing that they are looking for a man with glasses and his dog. With that, Maximus is off on his part of the adventure. Cut to a bandito. Bandito dies by dogleg. 3 fellows are infiltrating a cemetery in order to dig up a man, and mention that one Don Pedro digs the guy up once a year, cuts bits off, and then reburies him. This tells us that whoever is in the grave does not require food or drink to survive, and the presence of IV bags suggests he's kept alive by other means. It is here we are introduced to the Ghoul, who, after some banter back and forth with the 3 fellows, has a decidedly upset turn when his past is mentioned, and disposes of the 3 fellows, but not before saying that he hunts bounties for the love of the game. Now, with a bounty in his hands for Enclave Guy, and knowing he is looking for Lee Moldava, the Ghoul sets off, and we cut to credits. Overall, not too bad of an episode on its own merits. Bit shaky with the side characters, and the Brotherhood is presented as being filled with people who are not particularly bright. While the same could be levelled at the residents of Vault 33, I put that down mostly to the shock of being presented with violence after nearly 220 years of inbred civility. Of course, as stated during the review, they should all be very dead, but from the volume of radiation that Monty was giving off, and that nobody's Geiger counters were detecting it, if I had to rate it, I'd probably give it a 6, maybe a 7 at a stretch, but certainly nothing higher. Next episode, I believe we get introduced to Enclave Guy, and at the end of that, I will go over Moldava's plan, with the information that is to hand at that time. And I hope to see you all then. Ta-ta.